Good day, it's Pete the Polymath. It's another day of me talking about the stuff that I think you need to find out. And maybe I'm the one who's going to give you the information or let you find it through some direction I give you. Anyway, this is all about comedy, and I've got to try and capture those people whose attention span is so short that they will give up within 30 seconds of this beginning. So, a joke. There was a blonde woman walking along the side of a river for a long, long time. She looks across the river and she sees a man. She gets a bit closer and realises it's Donald Trump. Anyway, despite that, she yells out, "How do I get to the other side?" And Donald Trump turns around and sees her and says, "You're already on the other side." Like it's not an original joke, and I've deliberately misled you in some ways to try and make it a bit funnier. And Donald Trump is the joke. And the comedians in USA are going crazy because there is just so much material that they can just string together and just, oh wow, this is, if it wasn't the fate of the world in at stake, it would be an amazing comedy. It's hard to describe. Anyway, now about my comedic background. I come from a family that laughed a lot. We were a happy family. Now, just some of the qualifiers about how happy our family was. I never once heard my father raise his voice against his wife. I never heard my mother raise her voice against her husband. I heard them have discussions, and Mum, who was the intellectual in the family and the one that held it all together really behind the scenes, even though she credited him with having total control, she would sometimes say, "Let's discuss this later, Bern." And then that night we would hear the discussion from the bedroom late into the night. And there was something like I'd like to mention as well about, like, if you've heard me mention aspects of my family, and there's something I didn't mention the other day in my video about courtship, love and sex. Now, what that nighttime kind of thing was happening, like those discussions in the bedroom in my parents' bedroom late at night. Sometimes there would be other sounds coming from the bedroom late at night as well. Now, for all intents and purposes, it sounded like Dad was had actually turned the bedroom into a torture chamber, and my mother was somehow screaming in agony, but never actually yelling out, "Stop." And next morning, we'd get up and at the breakfast table, Mum would be really, really happy. And Dad, if he was around on the weekend, because he was always missing during the week because he started work at 5 o'clock or something, 6 o'clock, very happy. And so I'm just wondering, like how can they continue to pretend that they are happy when this terrible thing is happening on all these nights? Like, you just can't understand it. And of course, like now it's a very funny thing. And it was just like a decade ago, I asked my sister, "Did you understand about all of the moaning, groaning and screaming that was happening from Mum all of those nights?" And she said, yes, Mum explained it all to me about the joys of sex. Well, she didn't explain it to us boys. None of us knew any of that. And my father was so incompetent at explaining anything that we never got anything of that. Anyway, I never heard my parents ever swear. not any swearing. My father, as far as he possibly could go with swearing, was hell's bells. And my mother just didn't have it in her. And so I had to learn swearing from kids at school. And then I was caught. And I was a Christian boy, and I actually made a promise to myself that I would not ever swear again. So I was the only kid in my class who wasn't swearing. And I was such a good sort of Christian kid. I used to advise other kids, like stop swearing because it's bad and it's a sin and you don't want to do that. Like, it doesn't solve anything. Like, and I didn't actually swear until I was 21. It had actually become this kind of a psychological block. I couldn't tell a joke if it had swearing in it. I'd have to sort of like bleep it out in some ridiculous way, which would lose the momentum of what it was that was really funny about the joke. And so there was one night with my best friend, my comedy friend, that we went back to 1971 with our comedy when we were 12 years old. And I worked up the courage, and it was that night, and we had some smokes and some drinks, and then it was my time to actually use the F word, and I can turn it on now. I can turn on swearing if it's appropriate. If I need to, if I want to shock people, and particularly my relatives and stuff, just to shake them out of reality, I can swear a bit. I can swear if I want to blend in with a group of people who swear anyway. But if I hit my thumb with a hammer, I don't swear. If something terrible happens, I don't swear. I have to actually sort of deliberately decide that I am going to swear. Whereas most people are sort of conditioned into just dealing with any kind of crisis by swearing. Like, it's just something. I even, in my HSC paper, I even wrote an essay on why swearing was a total and complete waste of time and an effort, and we should stop doing it. It might be one of the reasons why I actually failed in English. Anyway, I was a creative kid as a child, and I've explained that. And then going to secondary school, like, there was 160 boys from all over the whole region, a lot of them farm kids, and we're all thrown together, and we all got to make new friends and stuff. And I had a couple of people I knew from primary school, and we're all the same. So we not automatically sort of form new friends, new alliances, which mix it all up and sort of doing amazing sort of things and stuff. And as time went by, I was becoming more of like the person known for being able to just drop in a line or a word that would absolutely be totally unexpected and cause the entire group to just laugh outrageously. It was such a joy to have that kind of power. Like I remember we were joking around about garbage collectors. There was a kind of cultural put down, even though the best football players in Bendigo at the time were garbage collectors, because they had to run all the time and grab these bins and tip them in the back of trucks and then run again. Like, it was the good football players had put their time in every day, clearing the streets of rubbish, these rubbish bins and stuff. Anyway, so Zombie, the leader of the pack, like, he's the one made up all the nicknames and stuff, and he was the smartest. He became Dux of the school and stuff, and we're talking about sort of garbos, and it was a big joke. It was because garbology was the word that came out from TV, but we were sort of throwing it around as well to try and sort of like send up the idea of these people hauling garbage around, actually having some kind of science and sophistication sort of stuff. And we're talking about all of this, and he's talking. There was this list of all the things that were beneficial to being a garbologist. and then at the end of that, I sort of said, and there's a chance of promotion. And everyone just stops what they're saying and turns to me like what promotion? And I said, yes, one day they might get to drive the truck. Brought the playground down. And I became this character, sitting next to Phil, my best friend. Now, he was the joke teller. He was the natural comedian who never got on a stand-up stage in his life. But he every party, every sort of meeting, everything he's done through life, he has been the one that has produced the comedy. And he became sort of really quite good in the in administration of the psych nurse sort of profession and stuff, because he was just so good at working with people who need to work with these crazy people. They need to keep the morale up. They need to keep them focused on what they're trying to achieve. And there's radical days of deinstitutionalization and stuff like that. Anyway, so he was my front man. Like he was the one who was delivering the jokes, and for some of the time, I believe most of the time, but he disagrees with that. I was behind the scenes, and I would work out something particularly funny on the spot. I would feed him the joke, and then he would be the one in the class where we're supposed to be quiet and paying attention and doing all that sort of stuff. He was the one who would actually deliver the joke and cause the entire room to just erupt in laughter, and the teacher just being absolutely helpless and unable to quell it until the natural cadence of the disruption had faded away. And so there was this comedy duo and sort of stuff, and it was just absolutely amazing, and it kept us sane in a time when just surviving through technical school, where there was literally the roughest kids in the entire sort of region, all congregated and in one place and forced to sit and work close together and play games and stuff. And this thing happened when you're going through puberty. And so some kids are naturally going to like bulk up. They get tall and they get muscly and they start growing their beards and moustaches and stuff. And the rest of us, little scrawny kids, and we look sort of so tiny in comparison to these kids. And so many of them became these enormous bullies who would just go along and they knew where to punch you in the arm to cause the maximum amount of pain. And they would give you a knee to the thigh, the corker that just crippled you with pain and caused a limp for several days and stuff. But these were back in the days of corporal punishment, where the teachers would strap you with this thick piece of leather and put your hands like this, like there, and give you 6 of the best, whack, whack, whack. And just a little tangent. A teacher for woodwork suddenly didn't turn up for the first class of the day, and I'd ridden my bike to school, and it's Sunday, and no, it's Monday or something, like in summer, and and this other teacher had to be sort of roped in to take it on, but we'd been in there in class just waiting for this teacher to come and do the thing, and we probably even sent one of our prefect, our class captain, to go and sort of recruit the teacher, because like he hasn't turned up, something's wrong. Anyway, just at the wrong time, when he was just walking across to deal with us across the quadrangle and stuff, I decided that I was so thirsty that I would just pull that sliding door back, and I would just drink out of the water taps that are directly just the other side of that window. I'd drink from that. And he arrived, and he was absolutely furious at my somehow breaking some kind of protocol, and that I deserved some incredible punishment for that. And he gave me a choice. It was 6 of the best, which was the strap, because he was one of the most brutal teachers in the school, or yard duty for a week. And so I accepted yard duty for a week, but he didn't realise that there was an option 3. And that was, I would avoid him for the rest of my student career. Anyway, these big, bulky, sort of tough kids, the bullies and stuff, they would do their normal brutalising on our gang and sort of stuff. And I would sort of, we'd know, like, and record this, that we needed to actually sort of somehow be able to protect ourselves from these people. And we couldn't do anything else. We couldn't call them the teachers. We couldn't do anything else. But we could use comedy. And that was my comedy training. Was working out how to inflict enormous psychological trauma on our enemies that was so brutal and heart wrenching and confidence breaking that they may have lost sleep at night, and it may have caused permanent psychological damage. But they asked for it, and we weren't trained up in the consequences of our actions. And so they would find themselves being all really tough and really confident and sort of stuff. And in class, one time a teacher might ask them a question and they come up with some stupid answer. And then I would produce the joke that would be delivered, and then the class would just be laughing at their collective enemy. Like I say, it was often incredibly cruel and brutal. Like it was vicious, a lot of the stuff. And I did carry some of that on into my adulthood, and I found that yes, I could be incredibly funny, but I needed to actually put in this little tiny bit of a fuse in there. Like there's some perception of what is going to be funny, and then I've got to do a little bit of a check, a quality control, a run through to see the consequences of this. Is this appropriate? Is this going to hurt anyone? Before I actually would deliver the joke. But there have been some classic things that I've done with comedy over the years, and one happened about 10 years ago. So there were about 6 of us who were good friends through secondary school, and then there's this one guy who there's a couple of guys who joined the gang when we were doing underage drinking and stuff like that. They were going to a different school to me by that stage. I was going through a high school, and they were going through that Institute of Technology and going towards like a training in computer science, basically. Anyway, there's a guy called Denver, and he was called Denver because if you saw him, you just thought John Denver. Same shape, head, face, glasses, hair, the whole thing. He was a hopeless singer and couldn't play guitar. That was the only thing. And we all grew up, and we all did our own things, and we got married, and we had kids. We were all going through this enormous thing and stuff. And my best friend, like he's gone through divorces, and he's become an alcoholic, and he's been a heavy smoker and gambler for all his life and sort of stuff. And we go to the funeral, and it's enormously heart-wrenching because, like, Denver was at age 55 or 60 or something, 60 when he died. That was, I think he was 60 when he died. He was going in as a triathlete and pentathlete. And when he died, he was in training for a pub to pier ocean swim that was going to be like 5 kilometres, maybe 10, I don't know, some kind of ridiculous thing that no sane person would ever attempt. But he's this ultra fit guy, and he's doing it, and he's going to get into training, and he's in this pool, and he's just doing lap after lap. And then he gets this bit of a pain in his chest, and he starts feeling a bit sort of ill, and he thinks, oh, I've got to stop doing this. So he gets out of the pool, and then as soon as he stands up, he just collapses onto the concrete, and he's had a heart attack. And I'm getting emotional here. He's surrounded by lifesavers. Like, these people, they're specifically trained to be able to give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. He's got the whole crew around him. His daughter is there helping him. The whole thing is absolutely working as if they're going to save him, but he's gone. Like, he can't be brought back. Anyway, I'm surprised about just how emotional I've become out of this. It's like, that's the nature of live performance. You've got to live it if it's going to be real. Anyway, shake. Right. So after the funeral, us mates and their wives, we go to a pub, and we get a meal, and we start having a few drinks, and then Phil, he says, like, out of all of us, who would have thought that Denver would be the first one to go? So I piped in and said, no, we all thought it would be you that would go first. And of course, like, that was the ultimate joke. It was the ultimate setup for a joke. It was irresistible for me to not do the comedy that they had always expected me to do for that joke. It was totally, completely appropriate for that situation. And to laugh in that situation is not showing any sign of disrespect. It is a way of channeling the emotion that would otherwise be causing you to cry into the emotion that would otherwise cause tears to run down your face. And rather than the grimace of suffering and pain, it is the smile and almost the same sound as crying. It's absolutely bizarre. Anyway, there was another bizarre thing I did with crowd and overcoming emotion and grief and sort of stuff. And this was a tragedy, a girlfriend that I had when I was 21, and I was too restless to get into a relationship, and so I skipped off. I went to live in Sydney, and rather than stay around the hometown, and she went on with her life. And when I came back to Melbourne, we sort of would get together and have a few laughs with the boyfriend. He had no problems. The relationship they had was strong, and I enjoyed their own friends, and we had a lot in common and sort of stuff. And then one day she was drunk and she was driving her Beetle that her brother had built for her out of a second-hand sort of one. He rebuilt the entire thing into this amazing sort of thing. He pimped the machine for her. She was driving that with her boyfriend beside her, and she hit a traffic island or a verge or something, and the whole thing rolled over, and the seat mounts all broke off, which meant that the seatbelt itself was the thing that actually sort of killed her. And it meant that her boyfriend, she died in his arms. And anyway, and he was totally, completely unhurt as well. It was like this bizarre sort of tragedy. And she had this enormous group of amazing friends in Melbourne, and I'd been already living in Melbourne as well, but we didn't cross paths too many times. And a friend, Phil, called me up and he told me about her death, and so I had to go to the funeral. That was it. I had just had to do that, and so we're there. We go through the whole thing. We're in the graveyard. The coffin is being lowered into the ground, and the boyfriend has arrived from Melbourne with a cardboard box, and contained within that box are two white doves to symbolize the release of the spirit, because Sue was a mystical being, a wonderful woman who saw the best in everyone, and I'm getting emotional again, and but as an idealist, things would always end up failing. But she was never sort of destroyed by failure. It seemed like she accepted that as part of life. Anyway, the boyfriend reaches into the box, and this is a very, very hot day, right? And these doves have been born in Melbourne. As he reaches in, one of the doves just escapes, but it can't fly very far. It just lands on a nearby tombstone and just is quite ill and confused and just staring at us and moving his head back and forth like, what the hell's going on? And anyway, we just thought, oh wow, that's just happened. But there's another dove in there, and so he reaches in and grabs the other dove and pulls it out and says his last sort of words, and symbolizes the release of the soul to the cosmos by throwing the dove into the air. And the dove flaps twice, and falls heavily to the ground. And I had that slight sort of pause. Is this appropriate? I burst out laughing, and all of her friends suddenly burst out laughing, and then the laughter swept until there's this group of 60 to 80 people in the middle of this graveyard with the open coffin, and they're all laughing at the tops of their voices. They're doubling up with laughter. I don't think her mother was laughing, but it was. There was again this enormous need for there to be something that would unite us in our grief, and that being this thing of shedding the tears, making the sounds, causing the gestures, everything of the emotional enormity of the situation. Anyway, you can be in a situation and you can look at something and you can say, oh, that is so beautiful. The person next to you can look at the same thing and sort of say, well, that's pretty ordinary. And another person can look at that and say, I find that ugly and disgusting. Now, a joke can be told, and someone can say, that is the funniest thing that I've ever heard. And another one can sort of say, look, I didn't find it very amusing at all. Another person can say, I found that to be repulsive and disgusting, and they should be horrified, and all you people who are laughing should be ashamed of yourselves. So one of those things about laughter and comedy is that it is a social statement. It's a statement of your education level, so you have to be able to get the joke in the first place. And sometimes that does take understanding the whole context and a bit of learning, like a few other things and stuff. It requires a state of mind. It requires not being depressed. And like it's an indication of your overall sort of mental health if you can laugh. Although laughter is also a sign of insanity. So if you laugh and you laugh alone, then it might be you have a great sense of humour. But chances are you are insane. Now, if you are laughing alone and in this crowd of people at a comedy venue, and no one else in the comedy venue is laughing, even though the comedian has just told the joke, it is extremely hard to laugh. And I found myself in this situation many, many times, being the only one who can find it funny and start to laugh, and then the social pressure of no one else laughing is just like, oh, okay, right. I'm not going to make myself look a fool by keeping on laughing. It's there, like a. But if the same thing happens and the comedian tells a joke and everyone else is laughing, and you're sitting there thinking, that wasn't funny at all. Well, I just can't find anything funny in that. You will be forced to laugh with them, because not laughing means that you don't belong in this culture. There is something seriously wrong with you. You have no sense of humour. You may be intellectually disadvantaged in some kind of way. You might be suffering from depression or some other kind of horrible thing that stops you from laughing at anything. And I tried all sorts of laughter things. I used to run laughter workshops in Melbourne, and I'd get 30 people to turn up, and 3 of them would turn up because they have not laughed for a long, long time because they are dying of cancer or have chronic depression. And just having 3 people in a large group of people who cannot laugh drags down the entire thing. I can't get the whole crowd to be emotionally overwhelmed with this unity of laughter, like all doing the fish and the bird thing of all together, joined in unison. I can't do that with them. It just takes those little defects. I can't cure people instantly with laughter, but I can try. And I incorporated laughter into my performances. There was spontaneous choir, and then I was doing spontaneous choir laughter. And you can actually find a CD that I made in this era on this channel, and there's a whole hour of the different kinds of laughter that I was able to capture with my particular recording system. Now you can also see on my channel I invented the selfie stick. Well, before I invented that, I was using a selfie stick to hold up a head that was a replica of my own head, because I had done plaster cast this side, plaster cast that side, joined them together, poured plaster into it, and then made a paper mache sort of mold around that, split that, rejoined that, so it's the shape of my head, and you see that as in the video. And inside that hole, I'd put foam rubber, and then I'd put a mini disc recorder. I had made plaster cast of my ears and drilled them out, stuck lapel microphones into them so that this head could record in 3D. Now, I stole that idea from Sennheiser, one of the most expensive sort of microphone brands in the world. Their microphone system cost $2,000 at the time, and mine cost $50. Anyway, so I did those recordings and stuff, and I was pushing this whole thing, like seeing how far I could take this laughter within this performance thing, this ultimate sort of level of joy and expression stuff. And there's one particular group that you've got to do a lot of sort of, you build them up, you push the psychology of this group laughter. You get all the laughter chemicals going through the body and the brain and sort of stuff, and you get everyone sort of like, everyone else is laughing, everyone else is in this emotional sort of state and sort of stuff, and they're all sort of linked together until you get this point, and you now say, can you now laugh outrageously, authentically, without the need for there to be anything funny? And yes, they can do it. And just the sound of everyone being involved in such a situation is almost, you cannot get out of it. You cannot sort of say, well, I've had enough of this and, and I'm going to stop. And so the minutes are passing, 5 minutes pass, like 10 minutes pass, 15 minutes pass, and a few people are sort of saying, can we stop this now? It's hurting too much. And I just know there's something funny that I can push this further and push this further. And by 20 minutes, like, everyone is actually sort of suffering from the severe effect of muscular exertion. Their bellies are aching from, it feels like they've just done some 20 or 30 sit-ups, and their faces are aching. There's even pains from the muscles behind the ears, from the continual smiling grimace and stuff, and the voice is wearing out and sort of stuff, like it's just going on, and they're all sort of begging me like, let us stop. And like, I was suffering along with them. I was there with them, and eventually, like, all